Hey, Mama, this is part two with my interview with Monica, the conscious coach for teens. If you missed the first part of this interview, I encourage you to stop what you're doing, stop this play, go back to episode 145 to listen to the part one of this interview, and then come back and listen to part two. We are talking about anxiety and our teens and how us moms can help guide them through it all. If you're like me, you've read many parenting books and have heard lots of advice on how to create communication that is open between you and your teen daughter. You've tried countless ways to have a conversation with your girl only to feel defeated because nothing has changed between the two of you. Reading another book just seems exhausting and not feasible right now with so much on your plate. But you are frustrated because you need something you can implement right now. The window of teenhood is closing and you want to make an impact with your daughter. My Talk to Your Teen Girl framework course helps you get the specific information you need to understand your girl, reasons to shift your role right away, and create a step-by-step simple plan. This customized plan works towards creating a safe space and a loving response that your girl will receive through your immediate implementation. So join me in Talk to Your Teen Girl framework, where I show you how to create a plan you can use right away without hesitation. It is possible for you to change your conversations with your girl right now. Go to talktoyourteengirl.com. That's talktoyourteengirl.com. Hey mama, welcome to Raising Her Confidently. Do you want to have open communication with your teen daughter? Do you find yourself constantly thinking about how to talk to your teen or why your girl is not opening up to you? Do you wake up with confident intentions only to feel confused and frustrated when all you get are one-word answers from your daughter again? Hey, I'm Jeannie. I too was a mom raising young teens. I too felt grieved by the loss of my sweet, talkative little girl. I wanted her to come to me about anything, even if she was scared, and listen to my advice. But I kept thinking, she won't listen to me, and I don't know how to approach her until I found tools to create open communication. In this podcast, you will find how to connect and talk to your teen and create a safe space for her to go to so that you will have that close relationship you dreamed of. Go grab your glass of Merlot and throw off those fuzzy slippers, and let's dig in together. Because some moms don't have the experience of what anxiety looks like, and some moms do, right? And so this is where we either say, oh, she's just being a normal teenager, it'll go away. In your experiences, what are some common signs or symptoms of anxiety that moms should be aware of? I mean, we kind of talked about it, but is there any other specific things to look for in their daughters?
Yeah, some other things that stick out would even be like changes in like sleep patterns or eating habits. So things
Mm,
like under or overeating. Again, I know we've touched on physical symptoms such as like even stomach aches, but also headaches.
mm,
You look at also poor school performance, so missing assignment, lower grades, low level of drive, or even to the point of like school refusal.
mhm,
Um, and then in addition to all those other things that we touched on earlier, and again, these things are different per individual. It
mhm.
could be two of those things from the list. It could be one of those things, but again, it's when it's the combination of it and it's persistent over time that it starts to be a little bit more of a cause for concern.
I see. And that's very helpful too, to have moms uh really look out for those and to be aware of it over time. Not necessarily freak out over it once they notice it, because it can be just the normal growing pains of teenhood, but to note it in your daughter. You know your daughter best and you know the changes that are happening to her, but you also want to be able to be curious and observe how long these symptoms would last, like sleeping in all day,
Mhm,
weeks upon weeks, right? And really
mhm.
isolating themselves in a way that's not typically normal of her. So, yes. And okay, so moms see that, but how can moms create a supportive and nurturing environment for daughters who are dealing with anxiety, but also respecting their space and their need for independence, because we also want to be able to do that and not be overbearing, right?
Yeah, no, great question. It's really kind of, again, what we touched on earlier is having those open conversations with your daughter. And when you're having those open conversations, really taking the time to validate her feelings.
Hmm.
And validating her feelings may sound like, it's okay to feel anxious, like your feelings are valid and I'm here to support you. It could sound like, I can see that you're struggling and it's okay to ask for help when you need it. So
Hmm.
really it's about noticing and taking that step to validate and acknowledge so that she says, okay, mom is making me feel like it's okay to have a conversation and open up if I feel comfortable too. The other tip I always recommend is to encourage them to express themselves freely, which again is done by creating that safe and non-judgmental space. But it's also about listening actively and attentively without interrupting or dismissing their concerns. It's asking open-ended questions. I find that to be better to prompt those deeper conversations. So even a question like, is there anything on your mind today versus asking a question that's like a yes or no answer. And a one that I've actually was really interested by was moms modeling healthy emotional expression by sharing your own thoughts and feelings in an open and honest way. Because at the end of the day, moms are one of our, number one role models. And if we see that mom, okay, she's being proactive, she's talking about her feelings, she's doing the work, then it's going to encourage your daughter to do the same way because she's seeing those positive outcomes of you doing that. And in terms of like respecting boundaries and privacy, it's doing it to a point where again you're trying to be inclusive and to create that environment, but you don't want to overbear and feel like you're being that helicopter parent.
I love all of those. We talk about that in our Talk to Your Teen Girl framework, as well as you know, providing a place. I mean, ultimately, what you want when you're providing this environment of having her come to you about how she's feeling, expressing who she is she just wants to be heard and she wants to know that she belongs there. And it's a safe space to open up. And how we react to when they share determines whether or not they'll come back to you, right? So I love that you addressed all those points and just how active listening could look like for your daughter even if we're like dying inside and we want to say something, or you want to be like, but that's not true. We need to allow space for our girls to express themselves. And I love how you also address how important it is for us moms to do it first, to be
Mhm.
able to be vulnerable and share our stories, how we've overcome, how we've probably felt anxious about something that was hard. And we have obviously move through it because we're sitting there being able to explain how we got through it. And it helps our daughters really not to feel alone. And that as big as their emotions are feeling for them right now, that there's always hope on the other side of it, that she will get through it. It's just a matter of how she's going to do that, right? So I love all those points that you've brought up because I fully believe in that. As well as moms, we have that type of responsibility to guide our daughters without actually overbearing and doing the work for them. So, so good. So good.
Yeah. And it's also like the gift of vulnerability, right? Like being
Right.
vulnerable and having difficult conversations isn't easy for mom or daughter. And of course, from both mom and daughter, you're not going to share everything and anything, right? But whatever you're deciding to share, when you think it's appropriate to share with your daughter or vice versa, you're doing it in a way where even if I've had a conversation with you, if I'm opening up, you're probably way more likely to share a similar story that resonates. So once you open that dialogue, it's like opening that shell. It becomes
Mhm.
that much more likely for your daughter to also open up to you.
Exactly, and we can't have the expectation that they'll I mean, maybe they will. There are some instances where they'll just vomit everything at you because it's just been bottled in for so long, but, for the most part, we can't expect them to divulge everything, right? And it's okay to get the pieces, and in time, consistency, maybe you'll get the whole picture, you know what I mean? But
Mhm,
as long as she knows that you are available for her and you are willing to listen and also respond in a way that is consistent in what you say, that it is okay based on our reactions, that it is
mhm,
okay, then I think that that will be very helpful for nurturing that environment for sure too. Now, in
absolutely.
your opinion, as the expert coach for anxiety with teens, what are some common misconceptions that moms may have about anxiety? that
Yeah,
their daughter may be feeling. Hmm.
you even touched on one earlier in the conversation. I was like, ooh, that's one that I want to talk about. But really, it's a common misconception is like the fact that it's just a phase, or again, like we're being dramatic, or it's something that we'll grow out of.
Hmm.
And again, while it could be temporary or situational, it is likely that majority of girls will experience anxiety at multiple points in their lives. And by educating and raising awareness around anxiety, moms can better empathize with their daughters and provide the necessary support they need, whether again it's at that clinical or non-clinical level.
Mm.
Other misconceptions that I've seen or come across is that medication is the only effective treatment for anxiety. And while medication can be helpful for some, it's not the only treatment option. And I don't see it as like a long-term option. Coaching, lifestyle changes, self-care practices, coping strategies that we talked about could also be highly effective in managing anxiety, again, dependent on what the individual is going through. Another popular one is people with anxiety are always visibly anxious or panicking. I know that wasn't me. I wasn't someone who visibly had panic attacks. I was somebody who looked very calm on the outside, but was internally chaotic and was internalizing a lot of my experiences because I wasn't at the point of sharing my story. And again, so that's a reminder that even though things may look calm on the outside, it may not be the case internally. Another one was that anxiety is just a normal part of life and doesn't require help unless it becomes severe. And
Mm.
I'm a big advocate for seeking help earlier in order to prevent the symptoms from worsening, because that way, when your daughter or when an individual gets triggered, they're already equipped with the tools, the self-awareness, the self-regulation skills to really mitigate those stressors instead of being caught in a situation where they're freaking out and not even knowing what to do or where to turn. And then you may be getting those instances where they're vomiting everything out onto you. And you're like, whoa, 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 how do we get here?
Yeah. Exactly. And I totally agree that, in general, it's a disservice to have our daughters believe that this is a phase you'll get over, because life is a journey and we will have challenges in life, right? Just living life, it's not going to be a perfect road. There are going to be obstacles that are in our way, and to not address and properly equip our girls with tools that will help them handle challenges
Mhm.
and life's obstacles will like allow them to go back to how they, what was the word that you were using? What's that word?
Maladaptive?
Maladaptive. Yes,
Mhm.
adapt to that situation, which could
Mhm.
spiral downwards to which leads to addiction and everything else. So I also wholeheartedly agree that even when it is small, it's better to work with small so that you can equip them for the big, right?
Because
So
small
good.
snowballs into big, right? It only
Exactly.
becomes bigger. And that's even what we wanted to talk about earlier was we discussed briefly about the maladaptive things about when you don't address anxiety. But again, why don't we look at the outcomes of actually committing yourself to the self-growth journey and what happens when you overcome, what feelings could you experience? And a big one again is the self-regulation. So being able to regulate those big emotions when they come in, which prevents teens from panicking, being overwhelmed, or having those aggressive outbursts. You have increased self-awareness. So developing a deeper understanding of your emotions, triggers, and thought patterns, which again related to that internal self-talk. Improve coping skills and self-help techniques, which could be things like meditation, journaling, podcasting, like anything that you do to help again mitigate those stressors.
Mhm.
A big one of an outcome would be enhanced resilience. So when teens are actually able to face and overcome a challenge, they build their resilience, which allows them to bounce back from setbacks with greater strength and confidence, because they're confident that I've done this before and I can do this again, which again will influence them to be more likely to ask themselves the question of what situations in the past have I successfully dealt with this before? And even when they have an increased level of confidence, their decision-making skills are higher. They feel more empowered to even pursue and achieve their goals with that courage and determination that we're all looking for.
I love that you address this too, because it does correlate with the self-confidence and being able to overcome. I always say fail forward. Like it is going to be
Mhm.
hard to shelter our girls from the hard things by avoidance. Actually, uh, what do you call it? Dumps into more of the anxiety. It's like I'm filling this void of that I can't do it. And because I'm avoiding this, and like my mom's helping me with this and helping me
Mhm.
get out of this, that it tells me that I really can't do that. And so the next time it happens and I don't have my mom, I'm telling myself already that I can't do that and I need to circumvent this somehow. So this is
Mhm.
where I'm like, mamas, we are there to guide our girls and not do it for them, even in the heart of anxiety, that we can be the proponents of encouraging our girls, but also helping and remind them of the tools that they are equipped with and remind them of the hard that they've gone through in the past and what's worked for them. So that's so good that you say that, because it's very important to do some of the tools that, or some of the things that you had just listed, like self-regulation and mitigating stressors, but utilizing that story to equip you to
Mhm.
overcome another that will happen, because it's not a if it happens, it's a when it happens, because life is life, right?
Yep.
So
Totally.
as we wrap up here, and I love all the good nuggets, and I hope mamas you're listening with a notebook, because I'm always like, grab your notebook, write this down, because it's a lot of good nuggets in here, especially with Monica and her expertise under anxiety in teens. What advice or words of encouragement would you offer moms who have been feeling overwhelmed or unsure about how to best support their anxious daughters?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for mamas to know is that you're not alone on this journey, and reaching the support or getting the support from other parents, therapists, coaches, or whatever you can to provide you with valuable resources and reassurance that again, you're not alone and that you can guide and help your daughter to get through what she's going through. I think the biggest highlight and my takeaway that I want moms to know again that I mentioned before is encouraging those self-care practices and modeling those healthy coping strategies. So really again, being proactive, confronting your emotions, making the effort for you as a mom to overcome whatever challenge you may be going through, to encourage her to do the same. Because it's the same idea of how can you expect your daughter to do something that you're not doing?
Amen. Yep.
And, you know, I acknowledge that it's not easy at times and that there's moments where you may feel helpless, but I promise you that raising your awareness around what anxiety may look like for your daughter and utilizing some of the tools and resources that we even talked about today will bring you one step closer to not only helping your daughter overcome that challenge, but building that relationship that you're looking to build with her.
Oh, I love this. And yes, how you were saying that you can utilize something like this that can be a very big challenge, with your relationship with your daughter, and can be scary to even tackle, that this very thing can bring you close in your relationship as you literally hold her hand through this. I love the idea of how can you expect your daughter to do this if you haven't done it yourself? And it's really looking at yourself. Like, are you doing the
Mhm.
things that you are guiding your daughter towards? And not to say that we have to live that perfect life, but to also admit in our mistakes and in our imperfections. I say we're not perfect people. We're learning constantly. And what's worked for you can possibly work for your daughter as well. I love this time together and all the, gosh, critical information that I know moms are yearning to listen for when it comes to anxiety and what they can do to best support their daughters. I say that it takes a village. So, mamas
Mhm.
listening, you are not alone in this and you don't have to have all the answers. This is simply an episode that is giving you information, but to equip yourself with people and partner with people like Monica to help guide your daughter. You do not have to do this alone. You do not have to figure it out yourself, and utilize those resources and people with expertise to help shape your daughter as well. So, with that, Monica, where can moms who are listening right now find you?
Yes, I am active on social media and on my website. My website is consciouscoach.biz. And I'll let you link my Instagram in the show notes, but it's double underscore conscious coach, where I share more tips on how to help teens identify anxiety and how to help teen girls overcome it. I'm always active there and looking to support the next teen. And again, like you mentioned before, one of my biggest inspirations for working with this age range is because there's that level of connection. Like you had mentioned, I'm not that much older than them. So there's this idea of, I know what you're going through. I've been there not too long ago, and I really want to help you overcome it and navigate those big emotions that may feel yucky now, but that won't always feel that way.
Yeah. And mamas, in my own experience, I actually do have a mentor that is about your age, Monica, that is in my
Mhm.
daughter's life currently. And I have a great relationship with her as well, because I understand, and I'm real, I can be real, that there are some things that I cannot speak into my daughter that this young woman can. And that
Mhm.
it, although we say the exact same things, she can receive it well from her. So I totally agree that age does make a difference, because there's this cool factor that happens. And mamas, unfortunately, we're not as cool as we think we are, and that is okay. But to have mentors like Monica in our life is so crucial, because it's this beautiful relationship that happens that actually nurtures your own relationship with your daughter. So yes, go find her on Instagram, and I'll put all her information in the show notes so you guys can connect. So thank you so much, Monica, for coming on here, sharing your wisdom for, gosh, the years that you have lived. It's so much information. You're such a wise girl, and I'm so glad that you are here.
Thank you for the opportunity. I always like connecting on platforms where it's very like-minded and to talk about things that both of us address. And the last nugget that I want to leave mamas with is that these tools and resources, a lot of them are trial and error, right? Try different ones. Some may work, some may not work, but the main takeaway is that both you and your daughter are doing proactive things to help build that relationship, and again, help them navigate these stressors that are bound to happen, because like you said, it's life. And when you're a teen, a lot's happening and it's not easy. But again, leaning onto the support you have and the resources is highly beneficial for anyone's self-growth journey.
Yes, they are. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being on.
No problem. Thank you.
Hey, friend, if this podcast inspired you or encouraged you or helped you in any way, I'd love for you to share it. You can screenshot this episode and share it in your stories on social media, or text it to a friend who can use the support. It's the best way you can thank me. I want to let other mamas know they are not alone. I'd love to stay connected with you. You can find me at raisingherconfidently.com. Until next time, live full of grace, Jeannie.